I never imagined that one text could completely alter my life. Yet there I was, sitting in my car at a red light, grinning like an idiot at my phone. On the screen was a photo of a pregnancy test showing 2 pink lines. After 4 years of trying, it had finally happened. I could hardly wait to show Cole. My name is Claire, and that moment, filled with sheer joy, was the last happiness I would know for a very long time. I remember every tiny detail of those few seconds: the sunlight filtering through the car, illuminating my dashboard, the faint smell of the air freshener Cole always teased me about, the song playing on the radio, a cheesy pop hit about everlasting love that I normally rolled my eyes at, but at that moment, it felt perfect. When the light turned green, I drove off, already imagining Cole's reaction when he saw the picture. He had been hinting at wanting kids since our wedding, and his mother, Vivian, never failed to ask about grandchildren at every family dinner. Then, without warning, the truck appeared. The crash was sudden, a violent collision of metal and glass. Everything spun out of control, and time seemed to slow. Amid the chaos, a single thought flashed in my mind: protect the phone. Cole has to see the picture. When the world finally came to a stop, I couldn't feel my face. Warm liquid dripped down my neck. Somewhere distant, I heard screams. A man's voice kept repeating, "Oh God, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." The words swirled around me like leaves caught in the wind. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" "Don't move," someone said. A paramedic appeared in what was left of my window. "We're going to get you out." I tried to speak, to tell them about the baby, but my mouth refused to move. The last thing I remember was someone holding my hand and telling me everything would be okay. They lied. I woke up 5 days later in a hospital room. Cole was there, asleep in a chair beside me. He looked terrible, unshaven, clothes wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. I tried to lift my arm to reach for him, but it felt as though it weighed a ton, as if it was a dead weight. "Cole," I whispered, my voice barely audible. He jerked awake, his eyes locking onto mine. For a split second, I saw something in his gaze that made my stomach tighten. Then, he smiled, but it didn't feel genuine. "Hey," he said, squeezing my hand, "you had us all worried." I tried to smile in return, but my face didn't feel like my own. It was stiff, almost alien. "The baby," I whispered. Cole's hand tightened around mine. "I'm so sorry, Claire," he said, his voice trembling. "The doctors did everything they could." I closed my eyes as the world spun beneath me. Through the haze of painkillers, I heard the door open. The familiar scent of Vivian's perfume reached me before her voice did. "Cole, honey, the doctor needs to talk to you," she said gently, "about the reconstruction options." Cole quickly responded, "I'll be right back," before squeezing my hand one last time and letting go. I kept my eyes closed, pretending to be asleep, but their voices drifted in from the hallway, through the partially open door. "She's going to need a lot of surgeries," Cole said, his voice low. "Her face, Mom. I don't know if I can—" "Should, darling," Vivian interrupted. "We'll figure out one step at a time." Lying there, I felt silent tears slide down my ruined face. They were out there, talking about me like I was some project to fix, a problem to solve. In that moment, something inside me broke. The warmth and hope I had always carried began to disappear, replaced by something cold and hard. I didn't know it then, but that was the moment my old self, the Claire Bennett who was a loving wife, a hopeful mother-to-be, and an eternal optimist, started to fade. Something else, something darker and stronger, began to take her place. Coming home from the hospital felt like stepping into someone else's life. Everything looked the same. Our neat suburban house with its perfect lawn, the welcome mat Vivian gave us as a housewarming gift, even the faint smell of Cole's cologne in the entryway. But nothing felt right anymore. I set up the guest bedroom downstairs. "Stairs," Cole said, carrying my bag. "The doctor said stairs might be hard for a while." I noticed he wouldn't look directly at me. For weeks in the hospital, and he still couldn't meet my eyes. Thanks, I muttered, my fingers brushing the bandages covering half my face. I've invited Mom over for dinner, he added quickly. She wants to help with your recovery plan. Of course she did. Vivian Hayes never missed a chance to take charge, especially when it came to protecting her son. Perfect life. The guest room felt cold and lifeless, like a hotel room. Cole had cleared out all my things from our bedroom upstairs and arranged them here with robotic precision. My makeup vanity, useless now, sat in the corner with the mirror turned to face the wall. Do you need anything? Cole asked from the doorway, phone in hand. I have a few calls to make, but I'm fine, I said, even though I wasn't. What was the point of saying otherwise? Vivian arrived right at 5, as expected. She came armed with casseroles and plenty of opinions. I sat at the dining room table watching Vivian arrange flowers in a vase, while Cole poured wine. The doctor said the scarring might get better over time, Cole said, avoiding eye contact with either of us. Well, there are always options, Vivian replied, her voice overly cheerful. I know an excellent plastic surgeon in the city, very discreet. I stared at my untouched plate, pushing food around with my fork. The insurance won't cover cosmetic procedures, I said quietly. Oh, darling, Vivian said, reaching across the table to pat my hand. We have to think about Cole's position at the firm. Image is everything in corporate marketing. My fork slipped from my hand, clattering onto the plate. My face is an image problem, Mother? I asked sharply. Claire? Cole warned. But Vivian carried on as if she hadn't heard. I'm just being practical, she said. Cole has worked so hard to build his career, and now with all the complications from the accident. She dabbed her lips with a napkin. Well, sometimes life forces us to make hard choices. Complications? The word felt like poison in my mouth. You mean losing the babies? Cole froze, his wine glass halfway to his lips. We hadn't talked about the pregnancy since the hospital. He didn't even know I had planned to surprise him with the news that day. Claire, he started, but I cut him off. Did you tell her about the baby, Cole? Or just about your wife's ruined face? Vivian gasped, her hand flying to her throat. A baby, she whispered. It doesn't matter now, Cole said quickly, standing up. What matters is moving forward. Mother's right. We need to think practically. I looked at them both. My husband, who couldn't meet my eyes, and his mother, who wouldn't stop staring at my bandages. The perfect son and his perfect mother, already planning my perfect recovery. I think I need to lie down, I said, pushing back from the table. Of course, dear, Vivian called after me. We'll figure everything out. In the guest room, their voices carried through the wall, muffled but clear enough. Poor thing, Vivian was saying. But Cole, you're still young. There will be other chances for children once everything is settled. Mom, please, Cole said, sounding tired. I'm just saying you need to think about your future, both of your futures. I touched the bandages on my face, feeling the rough gauze where smooth skin used to be. I thought about our wedding day when Cole used to say I looked like an angel. Now he couldn't even look at me. My phone buzzed, pulling me out of my thoughts. It was a message from an unknown number. Mrs. Griffin, my name is Arthur Stern. I'm the father of the young man who caused your accident. Please, I need to speak with you. I stared at the message, my fingers lingering over the screen. Through the walls, I could still hear Cole and Vivian planning my life without me. Something stirred inside me, nothing quite as simple as hope, but something deeper, something closer to purpose. I typed a single word. When? Weeks after I came home, I found Cole's whiskey bottle tucked away behind the cleaning supplies under the kitchen sink. It was half empty. I wouldn't have noticed if I hadn't heard him stumbling around at 4 a.m., talking on the phone in a whisper he thought was quiet enough to go unnoticed. The bandages had just come off the day before, and though I avoided mirrors, I couldn't escape hearing Cole's late-night conversations. "You should have seen her face today," he slurred to someone, chuckling softly. "Like that movie? You know, Two-Face from Batman." There was a pause, followed by more laughter. I know I shouldn't joke, but man, you try living with it." Standing there in the dark kitchen, holding the hidden whiskey bottle, I felt something break deep inside me. The next morning, Cole acted as though everything was fine. He kissed the unscarred side of my face before leaving for work. "Big presentation today," he said as he adjusted his tie. "Don't wait up." I waited until I heard his car drive away before heading upstairs to our bedroom. I hadn't been in there since coming home, respecting his silent rule to keep me out of sight in the guest room. Everything was exactly how I'd left it the morning of the accident, except for one thing. My old art supplies were missing from the closet. I found them in the garage, buried beneath Christmas decorations. The wooden box still had my name carved into it, a wedding gift from my grandmother. Inside, the brushes lay untouched, and the expensive oil paints Cole had bought me when I once mentioned wanting to paint again were still there. "You should focus on more practical things," Vivian had said back then. "Cole needs a wife, not an artist." I set up the easel in the guest room, facing the window. Morning light streamed across the canvas as I mixed colors, letting muscle memory take over. Red for anger, black for grief, yellow for the hope I once had. The brush moved with its own rhythm, creating something raw and powerful. Hours slipped by unnoticed. When the front door opened and closed, I heard Cole's footsteps stop outside my door. "Mother's here for dinner," he called out. I didn't answer, adding another streak of red to the canvas. The door creaked open. "Claire, what are you—" Cole stopped short. "What is that supposed to be?" I stepped back from the painting. It was a woman's face, split down the middle. One side was flawless, the other fractured and distorted, with a wineglass pressed to smiling lips. "It's you," Vivian said from behind him, her voice cutting through the air. "Or rather, what you've become." I looked at Cole as his face drained of color. "I call it Two-Face," I said softly. "Funny, right?" Cole's mouth hung open, but no words came. His eyes, however, betrayed him. "Don't you understand?" I asked, my voice gentle, though I already knew the answer. "I heard you last night, Cole, and the night before that, and the night before that." Vivian quickly stepped between us. "Claire, Cole has been under so much stress. If you could just try to understand—" "Understand what?" I snapped, turning to face them fully. I saw them both flinch. "That my husband makes jokes about my scars, that he hides bottles all over the house, that he can't even sleep in the same room as me anymore. That's not fair," Cole protested. "I'm trying to—" "To what?" I interrupted. "Keep up appearances?" I pointed to the painting. "Is this the kind of appearance you want?" Vivian stiffened, her voice cold. "Perhaps this outburst is a sign you need professional help." I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound that made them both step back. "Professional help? Like that plastic surgeon you keep pushing? The one who can fix Cole's image problems?" "Claire, please," Cole said, reaching for me. I stepped away. "Don't worry," I said, picking up my brush again. "I'm already working on fixing everything." They left the room, whispering to each other. I turned back to my canvas, adding the final touch, a faint text message in the background. "Tomorrow at 3, I'll explain everything. Arthur Stern." I stepped back and studied my work. Both sides of the face in the painting were smiling, but for very different reasons. Tomorrow, I'd meet the father of the man who destroyed my life. Tomorrow, everything would change. The cafe Arthur Stern chose was exactly what I expected. Quiet, expensive, and far from anywhere Cole or Vivian might go. I wore a scarf partially covering my face. It drew less attention than the medical mask I'd gotten used to wearing in public. Arthur stood as I approached the table. I recognized the guilt in his eyes immediately. I'd seen it in the mirror enough lately. the look of someone haunted by what they couldn't change. "Mrs. Griffin," he said softly, "thank you for coming." "Claire," I corrected as I sat down. "Your son, he's in rehab." Arthur's hands tightened around his coffee cup. The accident happened after he left his third facility. I should have seen it coming. A waitress approached, hesitating when she saw my scarf, before forcing a polite smile. I ordered black coffee and waited for her to leave before speaking again. "Why? Why did you want to meet?" Arthur pulled a folder from his bag and slid it across the table. "These are brochures from the top reconstructive surgeons in the country. I've already spoken with Dr. Isaac in Jacksonville. He's willing to take your case." I stared at the glossy pages, filled with before and after photos of smiling patients. "Insurance won't cover it," I said flatly. "I'm not talking about insurance," Arthur said, his voice cracking. "I'm offering to pay for everything. It's the least I can do after what my son—" "Arthur," I began, but I cut him off. "Why?" The word came out sharper than I meant. "Because I failed him," Arthur said simply. "And in failing him, I failed you too. Money can't fix everything, but it can fix this." He gestured vaguely toward my face. I opened the brochure, scanning Dr. Isaac's credentials. The cost listed made my stomach twist. It was more than Cole earned in a year. "Your husband doesn't know you're here," Arthur said. It wasn't a question. "No." He leaned in closer. "Because there's something else you need to know. The night of the accident, my son wasn't alone in the car." My chest tightened, but I stayed silent, waiting. "There was a woman with him," Arthur said, his voice heavy. "She's someone's wife. They'd been meeting at the Golden Leaf Hotel every Saturday for months." The Golden Leaf, the same place where Cole had his so-called weekly client meetings. "The woman survived," Arthur went on. "No injuries. She left the scene before the police arrived. My son was too drunk to remember her name, but he remembered where she worked." He slid a paper across the table. I glanced at it, feeling my stomach churn. "Griffin Marketing Associates." "You're lying," I whispered. "I wish I were," Arthur said, his expression grim. "For both our sakes." He pulled out his phone and showed me a grainy security camera image. A woman hurried through a hotel lobby, followed by a man in a gray suit. A very familiar suit. "Cole," I murmured, my voice barely audible. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you deserve to know the whole truth," Arthur said, "and because I'm offering you a choice." He tapped the brochures on the table. "Dr. Isaac can do the surgery next month. He can make you look exactly like you did before." He paused. "Or he can make you look like someone else. Someone Cole and his friend wouldn't recognize." I couldn't stop thinking about Cole's late-night phone calls, his cruel jokes, and the way he would purposely avoid looking at me. Vivian's constant hints about divorce and new beginnings echoed in my mind. "Why would I want that?" I asked quietly, almost to myself. Arthur's smile was knowing, yet tinged with sadness. "Because sometimes the best revenge isn't confrontation," he said softly. "It's making them live with their guilt while you move on, while you become someone stronger." I ran my fingers along the edge of my scarf, feeling the rough scars beneath. "When does Dr. Isaac need an answer?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Take your time," Arthur replied, rising from his seat. He left a business card beside the brochures. "But remember, this isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about choosing who you want to be." I sat there long after he had left, staring at the security camera photo of Cole next to an unfamiliar woman. My heart raced, tangled with anger, betrayal, and something I hadn't felt in weeks clarity. Finally, I reached for my phone and typed a message to Arthur. "I choose someone new." His response came almost immediately. "Welcome to your second chance, Claire." I walked home slowly, my thoughts consumed with what to pack, what to leave behind, and how to disappear completely. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about ruining someone else's life. It's about rebuilding your own. Jacksonville felt like an entirely different world. Dr. Isaac's private clinic was located on the top floor of a sleek glass and chrome building. Everything about it exuded quiet professionalism and discretion. I had told Cole I was visiting my aunt in Kentucky for a few months to heal emotionally. He seemed relieved, glad to have an excuse to avoid dealing with me. "The changes will be significant, Doctor," Isaac said, carefully studying my file. "But subtle enough to appear natural. The goal isn't to create a new person, but to reveal who you could have been." I looked at the digital mock-ups on his tablet. The woman in the after images wasn't me, but she also wasn't a stranger. She was who I could have been in another life, one where Cole's mistress hadn't been in that car with him. "How long until I can—" I hesitated, unsure of how to finish the question. "Return? Seek revenge? Start over?" "4 months, for full recovery," Dr. Isaac said kindly. "Arthur mentioned you'd be staying at his apartment during the process." I nodded. Arthur's San Marco apartment had become my refuge. It was filled with his late wife's art collection and rarely used, since he spent most of his time in Connecticut. The first surgery was scheduled for the next day. That night, I sat in Arthur's apartment, watching the city lights twinkle like stars. My phone buzzed. It was Cole. "How's your aunt?" His voice was slightly slurred, a result of the usual Saturday night at the Golden Leaf Hotel. "Fine," I replied, my fingers brushing over the surgical consent forms laid out on the coffee table. "How's work?" "Busy. Listen, Mother wants to know when you're coming home. She's worried about appearances." Of course she was. I could almost picture them at their usual dinner, strategizing about how to handle me, the damaged goods. "I need time," I said. "Life's slipping out easily now, right? Well, take care of yourself." He hung up before I could say anything else. A moment later, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Arthur. "Ready for tomorrow?" I started to reply with a simple, "Yes." But then another message popped up. It was from an unknown number. "Are you sure you want to know the truth about that night?" My hands trembled as I typed back, "Who is this?" Someone who was there. Someone who knows what really happened. "Meet me at Jacksonville Zoo, in the gardens, at midnight." I stared at the message, my heart pounding. It could be a trap, or it could be her, the woman from the hotel. The logical choice was to ignore it, to stick with my plan and go through with the surgery. But something deep inside me urged me to find out the truth. At 12:15, I took a cab to Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens. The air was cool and the Hudson River shimmered like black silk under the moonlight. A woman sat alone on a bench, her face hidden beneath a hoodie. "Mrs. Griffin," she said softly as I approached. I walked closer, and the woman pulled back her hood, revealing a face I knew from office party photos on Cole's desk. "Claire," I said, recognizing her. "Sarah from accounting." She looked at me, her eyes full of guilt. "He wasn't supposed to be there that night," she said quietly. "At the hotel. He was following me. Suspicious?" I asked, the pieces starting to fall into place. She nodded. "When he saw who I was meeting, his client's wife," I said, finishing the thought. Sarah let out a bitter laugh. "Cole caught us together. He was drunk and angry. He started making threats about exposing everything." She paused, her voice shaking. "That's when what?" I pressed. "When he called his friend, the guy who hit your car. He asked him to scare his cheating client's wife. Follow her car, freak her out a little." Her voice cracked. "But the guy was high, confused. He followed the wrong car. He followed you." The world spun around me. "Cole? Cole arranged the accident?" "Not yours. He didn't mean to." Sarah stood up, backing away. "I just thought you should know before you disappear." I watched her hurry off, my mind racing. All this time, I'd been planning to start over because of Cole's lies and betrayal, but now I knew the truth. He wasn't just unfaithful, he was the reason I'd lost everything. My phone buzzed. It was Arthur. Surgery prep starts at 6 a.m. Are you ready? I stared at my reflection in the window of a passing car. Tomorrow, I wouldn't just become someone new. I'd become someone Cole would never see coming. Ready, I typed back. But we need to change the plan. 4 months after my surgery, I stood outside our house in the rain, unrecognizable. My new face, beautiful but completely different, felt like armor. In my bag were the divorce papers, sharp and final, like weapons. I had planned this moment perfectly. It was Saturday evening, the night Cole would be home from his client meeting at the Golden Leaf, and Vivian would be over for their weekly dinner, plotting my absence from their lives. My keys still worked. I stepped inside quietly, hearing their voices coming from the dining room. The lawyers say if she doesn't respond soon, we can move forward with the annulment, Vivian was saying. Really, Cole, she added. It's for the best. That accident was a blessing in disguise. I stepped into the doorway, and they froze mid-conversation. Hello, Cole, I said calmly. He stared at me, blinking in confusion. I'm sorry. Who are you? I'm Michael Stern, I said, using the name Arthur and I had chosen. Arthur Stern's niece. I'm here about Bianca Griffin. His wine glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the floor. Vivian stood quickly, her instincts kicking in to manage the situation. Whatever this is about, she said, her voice firm, we can discuss it privately. Can we? I asked, stepping forward. I placed the divorce papers on the table. Like you discussed arranging the accident that scarred your wife's face. The color drained from Cole's face. I don't know what you're talking about, he stammered. Sarah from accounting does, I said, holding his gaze. As the truth hit him like a slap, I pulled out my phone and pressed play. Cole's voice echoed through the room. Follow her car. Scare her a little. That's not, I never meant. Cole stammered, his face pale. You never meant for it to be me, I said, my voice calm and steady. Your pregnant wife instead of your client's cheating spouse? Vivian gasped. Pregnant? Oh, he didn't tell you that part, I said, turning to her. About the grandchild you lost because your perfect son wanted to teach someone a lesson? Cole whispered my name, finally looking past the new face and seeing something familiar in my eyes. I placed another document on the table. This is a police report, naming you as an accessory to the accident, I said, my voice steady. Sarah's sworn statement is attached. I moved closer, locking eyes with him. Sign the divorce papers, I said softly. Or everyone will find out the kind of man you really are. Cole lunged for the police report, but his foot slipped on the spilled wine. He crashed into the china cabinet, the sound of glass shattering as he fell. Cole! Vivian cried, rushing to help him, but he shoved her away. Blood dripped from a cut on his hand as he scrambled to his feet. You can't prove anything, he hissed, but panic was evident in his eyes. Can't I replied, my voice calm, as I stepped toward the door. Arthur Stern's legal team would disagree. They're very eager to make amends for his son's role in this, especially now that they know who really orchestrated it. Wait, Cole shouted as I reached the door. Please, I'll sign, just don't tell anyone. Like you didn't tell anyone about our babies? I said coldly, my words biting. Like you didn't tell anyone you planned the accident? His face crumbled, a faint broken look in his eyes. I loved you, he said weakly. No, I said, touching the scars on my face, my voice unwavering. You loved what I looked like. There's a difference. I placed the divorce papers on the table and walked out into the rain. Behind me, I could hear Vivian's shocked sobs and Cole's frantic attempts to explain, but I didn't look back. As I reached my car, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Arthur. Is it done? I stared at the screen, unable to respond. The victory felt hollow, like ashes in my mouth. I had what I came for. Cole's signature on the divorce papers, his perfect life crumbling around him. But it didn't feel like a win. I walked past the spot where Cole used to park, where he'd kiss me goodbye every morning. Past the garden where we had once dreamed of building a nursery. Past all the plans and love that had died the night he chose revenge over me. Another text lit up my phone, this time from an unknown number. "You're not the only one he hurt. There are others. We should talk." I sat in my car, rain drumming on the roof, staring at the message. I thought exposing Cole would feel like the end of something, but maybe it was just the beginning. The real question was, how far was I willing to go? The art gallery buzzed with San Marcos elite, all there to see the work of the mysterious new artist everyone was talking about. My paintings lined the walls, faces twisted in pain and betrayal, beauty emerging from darkness. Each one was signed with my new name, Michael Stern. I adjusted my dress, still unfamiliar with how my new face and identity fit me. And then I saw him, Cole. He stood in front of my centerpiece, a painting of a woman's face, split between light and shadow, a wine glass reflecting flames. "Remarkable work," a voice said beside me. I turned to see a man with kind eyes and paint-stained hands. "I'm Asher Reed, the gallery owner," he introduced himself. "Claire," I replied, though my focus had shifted back to Cole. He was staring at the title of the painting, Saturday Nights at the Golden Leaf. "Your pieces speak to transformation," Asher said, studying my work intently. "Pain becoming power. Very personal." Before I could respond, Cole's voice cut through the crowd. "Where did you get your inspiration?" His eyes were on me now, recognition flickering across his face. It had been 4 months since I'd handed him the divorce papers. He looked thinner, his once perfect suit hanging loose on his frame. "Life experience," I said, meeting his gaze. "Some people wear masks. I paint them." "Claire," he whispered, my real name slipping out like a prayer or a curse. Asher looked between us, sensing something was wrong. "You know each other?" "No," I said firmly. "Not anymore." Cole grabbed my arm. "We need to talk." "Let go," I said, my voice cutting through the room. Heads turned to watch everything. "You took from me," he hissed. "My reputation, my mother's respect, my position at the firm. Was revenge worth it? Was Saturday night at the Golden Leaf worth it?" I pulled my arm free, staring him down. "Was trying to hurt your client's wife worth what happened to me? To our baby?" Asher stepped forward, protective, but I held up my hand. "You want to know about inspiration, Cole?" I said, my voice steady. "Look around. Every piece here tells a story. Stories about masks and lies, about men who destroy what they claim to love." "I never meant to." He started to hit my cars. I cut him off. "No, you meant to hit someone else's. That makes it better?" The room had gone silent, the weight of our confrontation filling the space. In the corner, I saw Arthur Stern, watching, calm but purposeful. Beside him stood Sarah from accounting, her face pale but determined. "You're not the only one with stories to tell," I said, my voice echoing in the quiet room. I continued, my voice steady. "Sarah's here. So are 4 other women from the office. They all have stories about Saturday nights, about threats, about accidents." Cole's face turned pale. "You can't prove anything." "Actually," Arthur said, stepping forward, "we can. My son may have been driving drunk that night, but the police are very interested in who told him to follow that car, and why." Cole looked around the room, his gaze landing on the crowd, the paintings, the witnesses. "You set this up," he said, his voice trembling. "The gallery, the paintings, everything." "No, Cole," I said coldly. "You set this up years ago, when you decided other people's lives were yours to ruin." Cole lunged toward the centerpiece painting, but Asher moved quickly, stepping in front of him. Cole's fist hit Asher's jaw instead of the canvas. Security rushed in, grabbing Cole and restraining him as he shouted about lies and betrayal. They let him out, his words fading into the buzz of the shocked crowd. Vivian emerged, her flawless makeup streaked with tears. "I never knew," she said softly, "about any of it. The women, the accidents, the baby." "Would it have mattered?" I asked. My tone made her flinch, her eyes flicking to my paintings as if finally seeing herself in them, the enabler, the keeper of masks. "I'm sorry," she whispered, but I was already turning away. Asher touched his bruised jaw, managing a small smile. "Hell of an opening night." "I should explain," I started. "You don't owe me explanations," he said, gesturing to the paintings. "Your art already tells the truth. The real question is, what story do you want to tell next?" I looked around the gallery at the paintings, once full of pain, but now transformed into something beautiful, at the women Cole had hurt, now standing tall, at Arthur's proud smile, at Asher's study, understanding eyes. "Something new," I said finally. "Something that isn't about masks or revenge." "I'd like to hear that story," Asher said softly. For the first time since the accident, I felt truly seen, not for my old face or my new one, but for the person I was beneath them both. "So would I replied. I was ready to begin again. Lie to live, but a place to truly be. I nodded, my heart lighter than it had been in years. 2 years had passed, and in that time I had learned the most important lesson of all. Healing wasn't a destination, it was a journey. The pain had not disappeared, but it had transformed into something more manageable, something I could look at without fear. My paintings now reflected that journey, no longer about revenge, masks, or anger, but about the strength I had found in myself and the beauty of growth. Asher had been there every step of the way, always understanding, never forcing, always patient. I looked at him now, his gentle smile as steady as it had been when we first met. He had seen my scars, both physical and emotional, and never once had he tried to fix me. He had simply been there, offering me space to breathe, to grow, and to create. "I think I'm ready for the next chapter," I said, smiling at the paintings we had carefully packed into the truck, each one a testament to my evolution. "You already are," Asher replied, his voice full of quiet certainty. "And I think your next show will be the most powerful yet." As we drove through the city, I felt the weight of the past lifting, each mile bringing me closer to a future I had once feared. The gallery would showcase my work in the light, not the shadows. And maybe, just maybe, I would meet Arthur's son one day. But for now, I was focused on something much more important. Living a life that was truly my own, without fear, without regret, and without the need for masks. When we reached the new apartment above the gallery, I stepped out of the truck, the rain beginning to fall gently around us. I could feel the quiet rhythm of my new life taking root. "Welcome home," Asher said, his voice warm and inviting. I looked around the space, a blend of light and creativity, and knew this was where my real journey would continue. No more hiding, no more pretending. Just me, just Claire,